Backrooms, the creepiest movie this year. Hi everyone. If you're new here, my name is Han and I love all things creepy, scary thriller movies, and today we're talking about the Backrooms. I just saw this movie in theaters about a week ago. I've been procrastinating this video for a second just because it was super creepy and I thought I needed to watch it again to possibly understand it better. Anytime you're remembering a memory, you are remembering a memory of a memory. And I think that this movie, Backrooms, explores what memories truly are and how dangerous they become and how dangerous they have become when we have unresolved trauma. It poses the idea that someone cannot accept fault and refuses to change. They become trapped inside of those memories. Plenty of spoilers for the Backrooms ahead. I went in a little concerned because I had just seen all the reviews online saying this was not the best movie, and a bunch of the reviews were negative, so I was a little bit worried. But all in all, I really enjoyed this movie. Early on, there were moments where I felt bad for Clark, but as the movie went on and we got closer to his demise, I slowly realized that Clark was not the victim and that he was a deeply flawed person. He spends the entire movie wondering why his wife wanted to leave him, but especially in that final kitchen scene when Pirate Clark comes into the room, it becomes very clear that she was physically afraid of him because Clark was very violent from the beginning of this movie. It is also clear that Clark is extremely unsatisfied with his job. He believes he deserves something more in life, something noteworthy, something prestigious, and working in a furniture store is definitely not feeding his ego enough. I thought it was really interesting that his job was selling furniture to families when he himself doesn't have a family. A lot of irony in that. So Clark cannot accept his own actions, which lead him to a dead end, both personally and professionally. His life, his inner psyche, and his subconscious are all reflected in the Backrooms. There are dead ends, empty hallways, scattered furniture. The Backrooms are a physical manifestation about what's happening inside of him. Clark is obsessed with being an architect, and inside the Backrooms, he gets to scratch that professional itch, the building, the exploring, mapping out things, but he never has to do any hard work required to become a real architect because ultimately Clark is lazy. In the real world, he dresses himself up as a pirate for the commercial shoot in the furniture store. I believe his public persona is that of a pirate. And later in the movie, he finally admits to Mary that he doesn't want to leave the Backrooms. He says it's because the Backrooms accept him for who he is and that he doesn't have to change. The Backrooms do not force him to become a better person. And in the end, it is Pirate Clark who ultimately kills him. I find it interesting that Captain Clark's identity manifests as a pirate because on the surface, yes, that makes sense. Clark dressed as a pirate for work. But within dreams, pirates normally carry a deeper meaning. They can represent craving for personal freedom or hidden aspects of your own nature. And historically, pirates are thieves, and symbolically, they represent trusting the wrong person. Clark trusted Pirate Clark, and that trust ultimately led to his death because he refused to break out of this cage that he built for himself. All right, one of my favorite scenes in this movie is when Clark walks into the Christmas room because the room with the Christmas tree, for a lot of people, that is their strongest childhood memory. Strongest childhood memories are typically tied to holidays like Christmas. I can't remember what I got for Christmas every year, but I remember the tree and the family and certain gifts, right? And as we get older, as we experience life, hardship, and everything adulthood brings, we hold on to the childhood nostalgia, even if it's only for a brief sense of safety and comfort. That's why I found it interesting that Clark finds the still life version of his wife in the Christmas room. Because later in the Christmas scene, when Pirate Clark is coming, they hear footsteps approaching. So crazy. And the still life version of Barbara runs to the corner. She claws at the wall. Because she's trying to get away from Clark, she's afraid of him. And we have to remember this is all coming from Clark's mind because these are projections of his mind. And in that moment, Clark still does not acknowledge that he's the reason that she left. He is the reason she is afraid. I truly enjoyed this between Clark and Mary, especially when they were in the back rooms. Clark finds comfort in these back rooms because he is conflict in his own ways. He sets his own ways. He does not want to change. He does not want to grow. Mary, on the other hand, she feels the gravity of the situation and she understands the weight of being trapped there because Mary has already pushed through all of this trauma. Since she's already navigated hardship, she is able to navigate these back rooms because in real life, she has already learned how to move through the pain and face her own trauma, just like she chose to face the back rooms. Meanwhile, Clark is sitting at the table. We all know what happened to Clark. There is a scene where we hear Mary's therapy tapes. This happens while Clark is driving to his ex-wife's house. In those tapes, Mary is talking about metaphorical doors and windows and how we can use those windows to explain how a person moves through harmful behavior and trauma and pain. If Clark had actually listened to that recording and if he had been present during his therapy sessions instead of just being so full of himself, he likely could have created these new pathways for growth, new passageways inside his own psyche, as Mary says. And that may have allowed him to do the same thing in the back rooms. But he doesn't do that. Instead, he finds comfort in staying the same. He finds comfort in the back rooms. And that's a little eerie in itself. There are some surface level thoughts that I had about this movie, but honestly, I really enjoyed it. And I thought it was really good. Regardless about how you feel about the movie, I think any movie, especially a horror movie, that sparks this level of online discord and theorizing deserves everything, especially from such a young director and this incredible work. But one thing I want to add to the conversation around the Backrooms, the idea of obsession. A lot of people are comparing Backrooms to the other major horror movie releases right now because there was a lot going on around Backrooms. They're all coming out at the same time. But horror is such a genre that holds so much nuance, and it creates a space for incredible exploration of humanity, of grief, of drama, of the human experience. And good horror forces the viewer to look inward and just take in what you're watching, internalize it, and ask yourself, what does this say about me, and how do I relate? How do I relate to this? Why do I relate to this? That is what makes horror such an incredible genre. I'm so glad horror movies like this are being made. Again, this is from such a young director. Amazing. Just like Obsession. If you want to see my review on Obsession, check it out. It's the last video on my channel, but I know that this movie was confusing for a lot of people. I hope this shed some insight. If you like content like this, my name is Han. Or if you like horror movies and content like this, and Too Many Opinions, my name is Han. Check out my channel for more horror and thriller scary movie reviews. I'll see you next time.